So now, talked before about 3D. There's a whole desire to get out of 3D, but the fact is that you don't get out of 3D. You go through 3D. You go through it. And we'll have an experience in just a moment with that. But before we have the experience, let's talk about it a little bit. Again, you live in a very flattened reality, just very, very, very three-dimensional, very three-dimensional. But if you try to break out of this reality, we try to break out mentally, it doesn't work. You try to break out of it in some other way, drugs, drama, or anything like that. It doesn't really work so well because there's a lot of things back here that are still, you could say, have dynamics to them, still alive, still out of balance. So take your own life from the time you were a child, going through school and into your teens and your adult years. There's still a lot that's you could say imbalanced. You want to get away from it, of course. You want to leave it, but it's still there. Obviously, we've talked about the fact that you shouldn't try to process it, because what happens when you process, you're going back, you try diving back into that limited perspective of what really happened. You kind of dive back into a tunnel, back to the event that happened in your life from that very limited perspective, and all you're doing is feeding that limited perspective of what happened. You're not really trying to fix it because there was nothing that was broken. There's a sense or a feeling that there's something out of balance, but ultimately there was nothing really that was broken. If you try to go back in and fix it, again, you're just giving more belief, more credence to the fact that there was something that was wrong. And there's really nothing wrong. The only thing that's happening back there in those events that happened in your life is that you don't have, or you didn't have, the perspective of what really took place. What really took place. So we're not trying to negate the experience either. And some of you have tried to forget about it, to bury it, to put it under. And that doesn't work, because there's still an imbalance because of the perspective that you had. Now, that doesn't just apply to this lifetime. It applies to all the past lifetimes. You don't really have, for the most part, you're not directly contending with those, because there's still aspects that are out there that are, as you're revisiting parts, imbalanced parts of your life, they're at the same time revisiting imbalanced parts of those lifetimes. So it's all occurring. Now, if it's an integrated aspect, it's happening relatively smooth. If it's an aspect that's very dissociated or has a lot of dark energy, then you're feeling that effect in you. It's going to come to you with its anger, with its attempts at resolution, because it's so locked into the old perspective, that limited, flat perspective of what really happened. So what to do? What to do? That's when I say we don't go, and you can write this on the board, Linda. You don't go out of 3D, you go back through, or let's just say through 3D. That's what I'd like to do in just a moment with a dream walk. Now, this is not a mirab. A mirab is when we sit and just spend a few minutes and allow a shift of consciousness. A dream walk is an actual journey and experience. So the energy dynamics are quite a bit different between them. You're actively involved in a dream walk. During a mirab, you could just sit and allow the change of consciousness. But here, it's actually, in a dream walk, it's actually a part of an experience. So I'm going to ask for, you don't go out of 3D, you go through it. You go through it. And I'm going to ask you, when we do this dream walk in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to be very aware, but not mental. That's kind of difficult right now to discern the difference, but be very aware. As we do this dream walk, it's not about drifting off to sleep. It's being very aware of the images, the feelings, the different things that come to you. It might even be one of those aha moments, or you may find it to be very challenging or difficult. But I want you to be very, very aware, participate in this dream walk, because this dream walk is going to give you a taste, an example of how to go through 3D and not just try to break out of it. And I hope as we do this dream walk, I know that you'll suddenly start to get it, how we do this.